Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Hi, this is Gracie Howes with Pilma. Let's hit pause for just a second on this episode because I have to tell you about this event that every forward-thinking PI firm should have on their calendar this January. It's the AI for PI Expo in Orlando, Florida, January 15th through 17th. This is the very first conference of its kind dedicated entirely to showing personal injury firms how to harness AI to save time, cut costs, and grow faster. You'll get hands-on demos, practical training, and access to the best AI solutions built for law firms. Reserve your spot now at pilma.org/AI for PI Expo via the link in the show notes.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. Today we have a special guest, Jonathan Hawkins, who is the lawyer's lawyer. Welcome aboard today, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me, Ken. Long-time listener. Glad to be on.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell me exactly, a lawyer's lawyer. So tell me exactly what you do for a living.
What we do, so our law firm's called Law Firm GC. So short answer is we serve as outside general counsel for law firms, but any legal issue that may come up in the operation of a law firm, we pretty much handle. So starting a firm, partnerships, adding partners, people leaving, firms breaking apart, succession planning, you name it. And ethics advice and other type of advice just that may come up in the day-to-day operations of a firm.
And you do this nationally?
We do practice across the country. We're based in Atlanta, but our lawyers are licensed in a number of jurisdictions, and in jurisdictions we're not licensed in, we can co-counsel and practice nationally, yes.
I could have used you about 2005. Went through a pretty bad breakup.
Yeah.
It's
it can get messy.
Yeah, it can. So I also understand that you're writing a new book called Firm Lifecycle.
That's right.
Tell me about this book.
Yeah, so it's written for law firm owners and maybe aspiring owners, and the framework of the book, it's really there are different issues that arise at different stages of a law firm's growth. In the book, we take them through the way I've divided it up. So really it's before you start a firm, maybe you're at a firm and you're thinking about it. So there's the sort of the pre-start, but then you start the firm, then you get into growing the firm, and there's issues that come up in the operation of the firm. At some point, you may want to merge or acquire. At some point, hopefully, you've gone long enough to where the older partners want to transition down to the next generation. And then ultimately, a firm may close and shut down. And not every firm will make it to every stage, but that's sort of the framework of the book. And the different issues that come up at the different stages, we sort of discuss that in the book. So
I got a question for you. We're going to talk about a lot of things today because I'm going to ask you questions that I wish I could ask you 20, 30 years ago. I've had partners, I've been solo, and I've had a big firm where I've had 13 or 14 lawyers working for me, and I was the only shareholder. I want your take on what I'm getting ready to say, and you can disagree with me. I will not cut it out, I promise you, because I believe in there's different perspectives on everything. But after 2005, I got the sense that I never wanted another partner. I didn't mind sharing the profits, non-equity partners. I was greedy, but I did not want to have to ask permission to do whatever I wanted to do. I didn't want to, because the last one that I went through the breakup, I was wanting to spend more money marketing and she didn't, and I was wanting to grow and she didn't. And so our philosophies at the beginning were the same, our vision, but my vision stayed the same, her vision changed. And even though I own 80% of the firm, she almost put us in receivership. That was a bad taste in my mouth. And maybe it's because I got hit so hard with it. But what do you tell lawyers when they come and talk to you about that? I mean, because to me, having a partner is like getting married. And if you're going to get married now these days, it's a 50-50 shot and that you're going to make it. And I think you got to have prenups and marriage, and I guess you got to have certain types of partnership agreements in law firms but still, man, I mean, I had a pretty good one, I thought, but minority shareholders, I mean, they still have rights. I mean, you can't, I don't care if you got 95%, they still got a right to voice their opinion and do things that can screw the business up. So I don't know. That's a long story, but what do you think about that?
I've got a lot of opinions on that, and I'm sympathetic to your view. I'll say that. And so what works for one set of folks and what's right for one person is not going to be right for another. So I have seen partnerships that have thrived and they've lasted 40 years and they're great. And I've seen others that don't even last 6 months. An absolutely real thing where visions change and people don't want to do the same thing anymore. So absolutely 100% sympathize with everything you say. I do think that if you have a well-drafted agreement on the front end, and I call them prenups for law firms. It's funny to use that word, and I call them exit ramps. All the different ways that people can sort of go out of the partnership, you should address all of those in a way on the front end that you agree to while you're still friendly, and say this is the way it's going to happen. Now, that said, people can always breach agreements. People can do crazy stuff. Obviously, we're lawyers. We see that every day. If you have that really well-drafted agreement in place that addresses all that, you can at least figure out a way to separate yourselves. And I think that's important. And the last thing I'd say is I do think, and I draft a lot of these agreements where you have maybe somebody like you that was the 100% owner and you're letting somebody new in that's younger. There are ways to draft the sort of decision-making and governance of the partnership so that established owner really gets to maintain control. So there are ways to get around it. Not perfect, but there are ways.
Yeah, yeah. And then I guess another question I got, because I know you said you handle, people getting together and then people splitting up different things, and but I guess another thing is the buying and selling law firms. I'm seeing a lot of lawyers are becoming baby boomers like me and are thinking about exit strategies or whatever. And I get lawyers ask me all the time, what's my firm worth? Do you get people ask you that?
Every time.
And I say it depends. And I mean, I don't know. What do you tell them? I mean, because it really does. I mean, depends on how they got the structure and how they do the marketing and what kind of systems have they got a well-oiled machine, or have they just got a thing that they made a lot of money at, but they really got nothing but goodwill. And if they leave, then the goodwill's gone. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. So my smart ass response to those lawyers is it's worth whatever somebody will pay you.
Right.
And so some firms are worth more than others. Some firms, I think every firm has some worth. It may not be a ton, but you got some. And, I tell people the less the firm depends on you, the owner, the more valuable it's going to be. So there are definitely ways to structure it, design it, processes, all that stuff now that can make it more valuable down the road. And, you're talking to a lot of folks. I'm seeing more and more true, M&A work in the law firm space. We've all, Arizona, everybody knows about that. But even despite that, the private equity and the institutional money is making its way throughout the country. They're just structuring it a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's, and so, and I've talked to several people, but here's the deal. We had one lawyer one time. He was really serious, and I told him, and somebody else told him, well, you got to get it you got to get it where it can run without you before you can get the top dollar. And we got him there. Took about 2 years. Then when we got him there, I said, why the hell do I want to sell it? I can go to Caribbean for 6 months a year. Then why do I really want to sell it? So I mean, I guess you could still want to sell it, but if you got it where it's humming and you can stay gone for 3 or 4 months at the time and still get a paycheck, I mean, still everything's running smooth, why would you want to sell it? I mean,
great point. So, I mean, the way I look at it is, let's say somebody said, all right, I'm going to pay $10 million for your firm. And then after you pay taxes, maybe you get 6 million. I don't know. So then you got to take that 6 million and recreate the cash flow that the firm was generating for you. And it's probably going to be very difficult to match the cash flow you're getting on the firm. And so a lot of it depends on where you are along. If you're 80 years old and you're ready to be done, then yeah, sell it. But if you're 45 or 50, you got a long ways to go. You might as well keep going. There may be other reasons you want to sell, but absolutely, if you've designed it right and it's generating a nice cash flow for you, I'm not sure you'd want to sell.
Yeah. I always thought that was ironic that the way to get it to where you can get more money for it means that you probably don't need to sell it. I mean, I just think it's ironic, but true, very, very true. So what do you see the biggest mistakes lawyers make when they're forming partnerships with other lawyers?
Well, the first thing is that, I don't know if you'd be surprised, but very few of them even have written agreements. Maybe they have a draft, but they never sign it. Maybe they took a form for something else they found, and the lawyers do it themselves and they sign it, and it's not built for all the issues that may come up in a law firm if you need to separate. And that's particularly true in a plaintiff contingency practice. An hourly practice is fairly straightforward to draw a line in the sand. Whatever happened before this date goes to the firm, whatever happens after it goes with the people. But in the contingency cases, they've been going on for years, maybe, some of the big ones, and they haven't monetized yet. Who gets them? How are you going to split them? All these sorts of issues. You're going to fight over them. And you can put all of that into your partnership agreement on the front end while you're still friends and friendly, sort of as a worst case. If we can't agree later, we're going to fall back on this, and this is how we're going to do it. And everybody knows it up front. Everybody agrees to it, and that's the way it's going to be. So biggest issue is really not putting in the time on the front end to sort of think through the issues. Because, look, when you start a new partnership, everybody thinks you're going to dominate the world. It's never going to end. It's, we're always going to be friends, but, doesn't always turn out that way.
Yeah. And sometimes it does. I had another breakup in 1996, but that was nothing to that one. That was easy. I mean, I just want a big deal. So here's the thing that not just for partners, but for all lawyers, and I know you probably see this too. Lawyer leaves, and you can have all these agreements you want to, but when it comes down to ethically, most states that I know of, you can't tie it up to where the client does not have a free choice to choose to stay with the law firm, go with the lawyer that's leaving, or go find another firm. I mean, how do you deal with that? Because I've seen this, and I've seen some bad stuff. I've seen where people leave in the middle of the night, already wrote everybody, violate the ethics. I mean, all this stuff. And then I've seen, seen some where they kick them out, and they cut out their access to the file. I've seen it both sided, where the firm really shits on the lawyer, and then the lawyer really shits on the firm. I've seen it both ways. How do you deal with it? I mean, I'm sure you've been called about these cases, because I mean, there used to be big money involved in this. How do you deal with it?
So on the front end, we can put in place, and I draft these types of agreements for firms, but oftentimes they'll come to me and they say, I got this agreement, and it'll say something to the effect of, if you leave, you cannot take any cases. They belong to the firm. That's not enforceable. Or it says, if you leave and take cases, 100% of what you make, you have to pay back to the firm. That's not enforceable. But there are ways to structure these things that are ethically permissible and enforceable, that at the minimum sort of put a floor on the downside of the firm if the attorney's leaving and taking cases, and vice versa. So there are ways to deal with it on the front end on all that, at least on the fee split part. The other part that I often put in these agreements is sort of the notice requirements, sort of the timing. When do you have to tell the firm versus when do you tell the clients? What would the notice look like that you send the clients? Many states have ethics opinions that give advice and sort of say it should look like this, but you don't necessarily have to do it this way. Now, Florida is different. Florida is baked into their ethics rules. You have to confer and try to come up with a joint notice first before anybody sends their own. And you can bake those sorts of things into these agreements where on the front end you say, this is how we're going to do it. Now, again, people can breach agreements and commit fraud and do whatever they want. And then you're just going to have to fight it out, I guess. But at least you've got something that that you've got that you can point to. This is how we're supposed to do it. If you don't have it in writing, you're looking at quantum Merowit, and it's a disaster.
Yeah, I mean it's it's not just partners either. It can be associates that have. That's always been one of my fears when I was practicing law was I wanted somebody hungry, but if you get them too hungry, they're going to leave you. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. But you want somebody hungry that'll produce, and I don't mind paying them a lot of money. But sometimes those people, if they're real hungry, they say, "Hey, instead of getting 20% of this fee, I could be getting 100% or whatever," which they don't think about all the other stuff, all the expenses and time and effort and branding and all that stuff that it took to get it there. I mean, but and I understand that. I mean, but what I'm saying is it was the one big deal that always scared me about giving, and I found it took me years to get away from not actually handling cases because I would still hold on to the high 6-figure and 7-figure cases. I'd still wanted to hold on to them because I was just afraid somebody would leave and take them, I did finally start just putting my name on all the pleadings on all the big cases that I had other lawyers doing, so that at least I would get notice from the court. They just couldn't, go around side backdoor me. That helped a lot, I think. I didn't really have that much trouble. I had a couple of people leave, but most of the time I just fired people. I mean, I think maybe I had one lawyer leave me in 30-something years. I had 2 or 3 I had to fire because they wouldn't work.
But you raise a good point. It's sort of the irony. In order to grow a firm, the owner's got to delegate and relinquish control and doing all the cases. But it is a real fear, and it's not unjustified for particularly plaintiff law firm owners. And again, that's why I rate all my plaintiff lawyer clients, when they start hiring associates, they need a very robust agreement in place with them that's enforceable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. Yeah. Are you seeing more and more firms coming to you about selling?
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm getting a lot more questions in the last couple of years than I have before. You're seeing businesses pop up now that do that for, I know 2 or 3 that's what they do full time, is just do nothing but broker law firms. And that's good. I mean, the deal is today, back when I sold my firm, nobody could borrow money on a law firm. That's different today, which makes it a lot more attractive for somebody to sell. Back when I sold mine in 2010, I pretty much had to finance 80% of it, and I was all right with it. I put in some safety valves, like I owned all the numbers and all the URLs and rented them to them for $1 a piece till I got paid. I could whack it back.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever put anything in an agreement? I thought I've done this before too. Like, if you leave, you cannot take anybody that's been working at the firm for the last 2 years before you leave. Because I see a lot of case managers go with the lawyer, and some of the clients like the case manager better than they do the lawyers.
So that's tricky, I'll say. And the reason why, there are some ethics opinions and maybe some case law around the country. It's not in every state that I've seen, but there are some that say that you can't have a restrictive covenant for a lawyer. Everybody knows that.
Right.
But they've expanded that to sometimes include paralegals and others that are on their team, because the court says, well, they're essential to that lawyer providing the service.
Right.
So as to your team, it may be tricky. But let's say there's a team down the hall that case manager doesn't work with me. I think probably yes. Again, depends on the state and how you structure it, but probably yes, you could prevent that. Your team, or if it's another lawyer, that's going to be tricky.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that. What's another big deal you get called about all the time?
So we talked about partnerships for sure, and then breaking apart, a lot of that. And we've talked about sort of the transition and selling, more and more and more of that. And part of that may be a function of, lawyers getting older and they're sort of at that stage. But I think also with just Arizona and the big money, institutional money floating around, I'm seeing more and more of that. And it's interesting, obviously Arizona, they can just flat out own it. but everywhere else they can't. So they've got this new to law, I'll say, but like the MSO structure that the doctors have done for many years.
How does that work? How does that work?
So basically, a firm will break out all the non-legal functions and put it in its own separate entity. So marketing, operations, back office, all of that stuff is in one entity, and that's where it houses those employees. And then you have a separate entity that's the law firm, and it has the lawyers, paralegals, and then there's a services agreement where all the fees come into the law firm, but then the law firm pays the operation company for the service, the back office services it's providing. And that LSO or that OpCo, anybody can own that. So that's where the money can come in and sort of, it's like a proxy for owning the firm. And
So how does a lawyer get money? I mean, how does that work? How does he get the money to market, to build his practice? How do they pay the firm, or they pay the operations?
So the marketing functions would all be in that OpCo.
Okay, so they spend the money for the marketing.
Yes. And then, yeah. And you got it really, the devil's in the details about how you set that up, because the payments from the law firm to the OpCo, it's got to be buttoned up because it cannot share fees. So you got to be very careful how you structure that. And look, I think it's permissible, but I could see some really aggressive bar regulator somewhere really taking aim at that. We just don't know for sure yet.
Well, it's definitely changing, and for sure. I mean, I think I've seen, this last 5 years has been crazy between COVID and AI and Arizona and whatever you want to call it, the venture money, the cap. I mean, I don't know. Is it hedge funds? Who's putting the money up for these things?
So I've seen different, I call it institutional. Some of it's, Wall Street money. I've seen some that are, lawyers that made a bunch of money and they created a fund. So it's actual lawyers that are behind it. But it's, the way I've sort of always viewed it, had these litigation funders for many years that were lending money to firms at an interest rate. And it was secured by the cases, but if the upside was limited for these funders. Now they've got an ability to get the upside. They get a taste, and that's I don't know. I wasn't there in Arizona when they passed it, but I always sort of felt it was they said it was for access to justice. I always thought that was just sort of a pretext to get it passed.
Yeah, it's access for Wall Street.
Yes. And the other thing I've always thought too is you got, this the boomer generation of lawyers who've been like, no non-lawyers, no non-lawyers. Well, now they're at the end of their career and they're like, they have no exit ramp. So then now they're going to start saying, yes, let's open it up. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Good deal, man. Anything I should have asked you I didn't ask you today that you'd like to talk about?
No. I've got a podcast, Founding Partner Podcast, where I interview founding attorneys. That'd be something that people can go check out. Closing in on my 100th episode, so we've been going at it for a while.
Yeah.
So I respect, man. You've been doing this a long time. It's not easy keeping it going.
Yeah, about 5. I think I'm working on almost 6 years. I'm on my 300th episode coming up. I enjoy it. I learn a lot, man. You just taught me some things today, so I learn something every time I do one of these. So to me, it's continual learning. So I like it. People want to get up with you, Jonathan. And tell us where they need to go if they want to get this book, and then how they can get up with you, email, telephone number, whatever.
Sure. So the website's lawfirmgc.com. I'm really active on LinkedIn. That's a really good place to reach out, connect. I will accept. You can, on my LinkedIn profile, there's a way to sign up for my email list, and you can get updates on the status of the book. But it should be coming out. I don't know when this episode will air, but it should be out by mid-October 2025. I'll be able to find that on Amazon, but we'll have a landing page up as well on the website. And reach out, please. Love to talk to you.
All right, man. Thank you so much, and appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule. And until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success. Thank you.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.